All right, welcome back. In part 1, we got the big picture of local government. But now we're diving into the story of a constitutional earthquake. I'm talking about a change so massive it completely rewired democracy right at the village level all across India. So let's get right into it.
And of course, this explainer comes to you from the A1 Institute. Our whole mission is to make these complex topics super clear and get you totally exam ready. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button so you never miss out.
Okay, just a quick heads up. This is part 2. So if you happen to miss part 1, I really recommend pausing here and giving that a watch first. It gives you all the crucial backstory for the constitutional revolution we're about to unpack.
So let's set the scene. What was actually broken? Before the 1990s, local government in India was basically running on fumes. It was a system that desperately needed a full reboot. So let's diagnose exactly what was wrong. You know, the dream of self-governing villages. That's as old as modern India itself. Even way back in 1948, leaders were pushing for it. But for decades, this incredible idea was just that, an idea. The reality on the ground, well, that was a completely different and much sadder story.
So here's the diagnosis. Before 1992, local bodies did exist, but they were, well, pretty toothless. They had hardly any real power. Financially, they were completely dependent on the state and central governments for every penny. And elections? They were often postponed for years at a time. And the worst part? State governments could just dissolve them whenever they wanted. It was just not a system built for success.
So clearly, the solution couldn't just be some new policy paper. The problem was systemic. It was deep. The answer had to be written into the very DNA of the nation, the Constitution itself. And this is where the legendary 73rd and 74th Amendments finally step onto the stage.
So, how did this massive shift happen? Well, it really started gaining momentum in 1989. The P.K. Thungan Committee came out and basically said, we need to give local governments constitutional status. That idea caught fire. By 1992, Parliament passed the 73rd and 74th Amendments. And then, in 1993, boom, they came into force, changing the entire game.
Now, both of these amendments were historic, but today we are zeroing in on the 73rd. This is the one that completely transforms the rural landscape, creating what we know as the Panchayati Raj institutions.
So what did this amendment actually build? What did it create? Let's break down the core pillars of this brand new Panchayati Raj system.
First up, it got rid of the messy, inconsistent system that existed before and brought in a clear, mandatory three-tier structure for everybody. At the base, you've got the Gram Panchayat at the village level. In the middle, the Mandal or Block Panchayat, and at the top, the Zilla Panchayat for the whole district. Suddenly, everyone was playing by the same rulebook. And at the very foundation of this entire structure, you have the Gram Sabha. Now think about this for a second. This isn't an elected body, it is the people. Every single adult who is registered to vote in that village is a member. This is direct democracy in its purest form, right there at the grassroots.
The next pillar is all about democratic accountability. And this is huge. Members at all three levels, the Gram, the Mandal, and the Zilla, are now directly elected by the people, no exceptions. And they serve a fixed 5-year term, which creates this predictable cycle of power and public accountability.
And this cause right here, this is an absolute game changer. It directly fixed that old problem of state governments just dissolving local bodies whenever they felt like it. The new rule is simple. If a panchayat is dissolved, a new election must be held within 6 months. This one provision slammed the door shut on all the political games that used to paralyze local democracy.
But look, a new structure is pretty useless without real power and real inclusion. So the next part of the amendment was all about empowering the grassroots and making absolutely sure that every voice could be heard.
And this next part, this was absolutely revolutionary. The amendment mandated reservations. 1/3 of all seats were reserved for women. Seats were reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes based on their population. And this is so crucial, this wasn't just for membership. It also applied to the leadership positions, the chairpersons, guaranteeing a seat at the head of the table.
Now, to give these new bodies some real work to do, the Constitution identified 29 specific subjects that were supposed to be transferred from the state governments over to the Panchayati Raj institutions.
And we're not talking about minor bureaucratic stuff here. We're talking about the issues that define daily life in a village. Things like agriculture, clean drinking water, rural housing, local roads, health and sanitation. By transferring these 29 subjects, the Constitution was giving Panchayats not just a title, but real tangible power to shape their own communities.
And finally, to protect this whole new system and make sure it could actually function on its own, the amendment created two powerful watchdog institutions at the state level.
First, there's the State Election Commissioner. This is an independent officer, totally separate from the state government, whose only job is to conduct elections for the panchayats. By creating this role, the amendment took politics out of the equation and helped ensure the process was fair and impartial. And to solve that chronic problem of not having enough money, each state now has to appoint a state finance commission every 5 years. Its job is to create a fair, logical formula for sharing state revenues with local governments. This replaced political favoritism with a predictable, systematic flow of money right to the grassroots.
So let's put it all together. The 73rd Amendment wasn't just some minor reform, it was a constitutional revolution. It created a uniform, empowered, and constitutionally protected third tier of government, embedding democracy deeper into the very fabric of India than ever before.
And that's the core of the 73rd Amendment. You now have all the key knowledge you need to tackle this topic on any exam. For more explainers that break down these complex subjects, make sure you subscribe to the A1 Institute channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.